Oh, let me stop that ding dong. Let's see. Do not play sound. Okay, there we go. All righty. Okay, so here's the Merchants of Cool assignment. I'm just gonna open this as a preview so that we can go through some of these questions. I'm not gonna go through all of them. All right, but I wanna start with this one. Why do the frontline producers use the term colonize? To describe what advertisers are doing to teens. What does it mean to colonize something? What's a colony?
It's a territory for like resources.
Debbie, I can't hear you too well. Maybe you need to get closer to your microphone. I don't know. How can you guys hear me okay? Time, thank you for the thumbs up.
Yes.
Am I too loud? No, it's okay, Debbie. It's okay. Don't worry about it. And I want you to finish your comment. I just want to be able to hear you. So what's a colony? Debbie was going to tell us. Debbie says a territory for resources. Okay. All right. So a colony is a grouping of people, right, in a particular space. And one of the reasons people try to establish colonies is because they're after resources. All right. Annie says, kind of similar to homogenizing. Okay, so colonization, right, has some characteristics. When people colonize something, one of the things that happens is that they homogenize it. They make things that were different the same. Okay, and how does that process work? What happens? What's the order of events in colonialization? Think about our state, you guys. Think about the state of California. All right. There is evidence of a colonial past everywhere in our state. All right. And who colonized the state of California initially? Who were the first colonialists in the state of California?
Native Americans?
No, Native Americans were the original people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a good place to start.
The British? English?
No, you're on the right track though. The British first came to the East Coast.
Spaniards.
And there was other people from Europe here before the British. Go ahead, sorry.
Spaniards.
I barely heard someone respond.
Say it one more time.
Who was here before the British? Native Americans were here originally. They were the first humans. And then the Spanish. Right, you guys? Oh, Josh said type to the Spanish into chat. Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Yes, the Spanish. All right. Have you guys been to a mission?
Yes.
You know, in grade school, did you go visit a mission? San Juan Bautista or some other mission in the state? Yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you for that response. Is that you, Tyne? And what was the purpose of the mission? Why make a mission? The Spanish made them, right? For what purpose? Hey, you guys, if I didn't say this in my in my welcome note to you in chat. But if at all possible, you guys can, show yourselves in your video. That would make this conversation easier. You can also use the Zoom tools to raise your hand if you have a response to give to my questions. Okay, but this conversation is going to go a lot faster if people respond to these questions that I have good reason to assume you know the answers to. Thank you, William. To convert people to their religion. That's right. That was the purpose of the mission. And the Spanish were what religion? Catholic. Thank you, Josh. All right. And who were they trying to convert to their religion?
The Native Americans.
That's right. Who had their own religion. They had their own religion. They had their own cultural practices. They had their own beliefs, their own values, right? And the Spanish Catholics had a whole other set of beliefs and values and practices, right? And when they came to California and saw the natives, what did they think of how the natives were living? And it wasn't California then either, but that's what the Spanish decided it should be called.
I think they just decided that it was like a different way of life from theirs. Like they lived in like a tribal community. They didn't practice the same religion. They had like irrigation and stuff that they didn't have. So, yeah.
I can hear you really well now, Debbie. Thank you for putting on that headset. William said like savages. That's right. Okay, you're both right. The Spanish Catholics thought the natives were living like savages. They thought of them as heathens. They thought their religion was a pagan religion. They thought that all of the natives were going to hell. And the Spanish Catholics thought they had to save them. And they did that by imposing all of their values and beliefs onto the natives. All right? And that's what it means to colonize something, right? Not to just take over a space, right? But to impose a set of values and beliefs on the other occupants of that space. All right, so why do the producers use that term to talk about what advertisers are doing to teenagers?
Because they're trying to build like a long-term relationship with them for their resources and for like their
and
stuff.
impose values on the teens, right? Impose a way of being and a set of values on the teens that are commercial values and commercial ways of being that will provide a target audience that wants to buy the stuff that the advertisers have to sell. They're trying to shape teens so that teens will want the stuff they have to sell. They're trying to colonize them. Does that make sense, you guys? Give me a thumbs up if that makes sense. Or nod your head if I can see you. Thank you. Thank you, thumbs uppers and head nodders. Okay, all right. So what's a commodity? Did you guys look it up? Did you look up commodify and commodity? Commodify is the verb. Commodity is the noun. So that's why I'm asking you about commodity first. What's a commodity? If you didn't look it up, just Google it right now. It'll take 2 seconds. And then tell me what definition you got. Josh says raw goods are commodities. And what can you do with them, Josh? What makes them into a commodity? I mean, wheat is just wheat, right? To trade or sell, right? That's what makes it into a commodity. When you take something, a raw material, and make it something that you can sell or buy. That's the commodify part. To do something to the raw material so that it is saleable. Does that make sense, you guys? Hey, Jose. All right, so that's what are some examples from the documentary of the commodification of things? Do you guys think it's a good idea to commodify everything? Should everything be commodified? Should everything be turned into a product that can
No,
be
I
bought
feel
or sold.
that's just making everything materialistic in a sense, and then things with actual value and meaning just will no longer have that. And I feel like that's what a lot of the articles have like talked about. Like that's the risk that's gonna happen if everyone keeps consuming and stuff. But like I don't know, that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, so you guys, that's a
Also-
good connection that you just drew, Annie, between consumerism, and the topic of our first essay, and this particular documentary. It's trying to bridge consumerism and gender. It's trying to talk about the way gender has been commodified by consumer culture. Okay? But the documentary is more broadly about youth culture and the kinds of creative projects that young people make. Okay? Their style, their way of being, their cultural practices and rituals. They have a culture of their own. And advertising and consumer culture is trying to take that and turn it into a product. All right? Okay, so let's move on. These two are related questions. Number 4 is the answer to number 3. So number 3 is kind of a trick question. Sorry, I don't usually pose those. Okay, but the answer to number 3 is neither, right, you guys? It's not either or, it's both, right? Media is not just a mirror, and kids aren't simply mimicking what they see in the media. It's a loop. What's the loop? How does the giant feedback loop work, according to the documentary? What answer did you give to this question?
The media sees kids that may be creating a trend and use that to market it, and then the rest of the kids in the world follow that trend.
Yeah, that's very close to the exact definition that the documentary gives of the giant feedback loop. It starts with, I mean, you know, with a loop, how can you tell where it starts, right? It's like the chicken or the egg, which came first, right? But in the documentary, they say that first consumer culture watches kids, watches what they're doing, right? And then it takes that, and it doesn't just feed that back to them exactly as it is, right? It changes. It makes little changes. Usually those changes are designed to exaggerate or amplify the teenage behavior or the teenage styles or the teenage interests, right? It exaggerates them. And then it makes an image of that exaggeration, which it gives back to the teens. And then the teens see that. And then they try to emulate that so that it's a loop that keeps going. And what keeps the loop going is the exaggeration, right? And that's also what keeps people buying stuff, the exaggeration. These two stereotypes here, the MOOC and the midriff, right, are examples of this happening with gender, of the giant feedback loop happening when it comes to gender and gender construction and performance. The gender representation that we see in the media is a construction that the media has done, first by observing what kids are doing. Remember, spring break is an example that the documentary gives, right? Kids have been partying at the beach during their Easter break for a long time, but it hasn't always been a commodity. It's just been something kids do for themselves, right? And the documentary says, yeah, they do that, but then the media said, hey, we can commodify this, we can market it, we can make a TV show out of it, and we can sell a bunch of stuff, okay? So they watch the kids, they film the kids, right? And then the kids see that, and the behavior gets more and more and more extreme, right? Are you guys with me? Is everybody following what I'm saying with my spring break example and the feedback loop?
Yeah.
And gender in particular is represented in these presentations of teenage behavior. Do you guys remember the scene from the documentary where, oh, what's her name? I can't remember her name now. The blonde that they interview, the teenager who idolizes Britney Spears and wants to be a model. What was her name? I can't remember. But you guys know who I'm talking about? Yeah, do you guys know who I'm talking about? That young girl? She's 13, you guys. Okay, I can't even, she's barely a teenager. All right, and there's a clip in the documentary of her dancing near the end of it, right? And first she's dancing kind of sexually, suggestively with a boy, and then she sees the camera watching her. Did you guys notice how her behavior changed, how it became more exaggerated? And her movements became more and more and more sexualized? Did you notice that? I thought it was kind of creepy. Nobody noticed that? Give me a thumbs up if you know what the hell I'm talking about. Oops, I cussed in Zoom. And I'm recording. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Tyne. I need to know you're out there. Thanks, Sam and Samantha.
I mean, it's ironic too because stars like Britney Spears also started acting at a young age, so she probably like learned those skills from watching other people around her and like was told to do those things, and now she's
Yeah,
like creating that feedback loop.
Sorry, I thought you were done, Debbie. Like
Oh
Britney
no, I'm done.
Spears. Britney Spears, right? She is literally shown, Annie says, yeah, she was weird. Thank you, Annie. She's literally shown as being a big fan of Britney Spears and trying to copy the way Britney Spears behaves and the way she looks. Brenda, that was her name. Her name was Brenda. I did it. Yes. Good job, brain. It takes you a while, but you're still in there. You're still in there cranking. Oh. Okay, but consumer culture and gender, right? Those things go together, where gender is another product that is being appropriated by the market to sell kids stuff, right? Because if you're gonna be Britney Spears, if you're gonna look like her, or Cardi B, or Megan Thee Stallion, my daughter's a big fan of Megan Thee Stallion, or any of those other people, the Kardashians, God forbid, right? You've got to have the stuff. All right. Let's see. There's one other thing that I wanted to ask you about from this list. What are some of the gendered cultural values that such marketing draws on and promotes most consistently? Do you guys know what I mean by gendered cultural values? What do you think that means? What's a gendered cultural value?
Values that our culture has around gender.
Yeah, as we discussed previously, our culture has certain beliefs about how males and females should look and behave, right? And we value certain things in females, and we value certain other things in males, okay? So what are some of the gendered cultural values that marketing draws on and promotes most consistently? What about for females? What are some of the things we in our culture value for females that you see being commodified?
I would say like family values. Like whenever someone sells food, it's usually around a family, and it's usually around like a mom cooking for her kids.
Okay, we see those things being commodified in ads for like cleaning products, right? Where the person cleaning is the mom. Although you guys, I've been seeing a lot more ads with dads cleaning, which is good. You gotta clean if you're a guy. It's just too much. It's just too much dirt for any one person to clean. Okay? Women in your life are gonna die if you don't help them clean. All right? What are some others? What are some gendered cultural values that marketing draws on and promotes most consistent?
Would Mr. Clean be one?
Mr. Clean? Okay.
I just thought of
What's
that.
gendered about Mr. Clean, Anthony?
You have to be like a bald, like have a mustache, old white man, I guess, cleaning.
Yeah, and what's his body type?
Buff and like ripped.
Yeah, he's really ripped.
Yeah.
All right, and the cleaning product is going to really rip all of the dirt off your floor or whatever.
Dang, you
Right?
should be an advertiser.
That's a good one. That's one I hadn't thought of before. But so the value there for men is that they be big and you know, dominant. That he's standing with his arms crossed and his legs apart in all of those ads that you see, right? And the pictures of him on the product. That's how he's standing. He's going to dominate that filth on your floor. Okay, what else? Think about the documentary. Okay, what are some gendered cultural values that you seeing being used as specific examples in that documentary for males or females? And they're different, right? It's what's good about you isn't that you're a good person, right? It's not that you're responsible, you take care of people. That's not what's important about you. What's important about females in our culture? Based on the examples that the documentary gives. Looks, William says, yes. Talked about that before. Specifically with women, and it's looks with men now too, more than it used to be. But specifically with women, what kind of looks? How should you look?
Probably like I think they mentioned the midriff thing.
Yeah. And
You
why
could be like
should
overtly
she show
sexual.
her middle part of her body? Sexually. Thank you, Samantha. Samantha Ochoa. Thank you. All right. I'm sorry, Samantha. Is it okay if I call you Samantha? I know you go by Sam. Arthur said unrealistic. Yeah. Thank you, Samantha, for letting me call you Samantha. That way Sam won't get confused. I'm sure his name is Samuel, right? Right, Sam? Sam
Yeah,
Coughlin?
I never go by it, but I mean, you can call me that too if you want.
All right, I'm gendering you, Samantha. Sorry. All right. Anyway, so for females, it's sexual. It's sexuality. That's the most important thing about them, right? And you see that reflected over and over and over in our culture. All right. Did we look at the Carl's Jr. ads in this class last week? They're using a buxom female to sell hamburgers. You guys, did we look at those? Give me a thumbs up if you remember. If not, I want to look at them with you because they're a good example. And I can't remember. My other class is 1 week ahead of you, so I'm getting confused. No, we didn't. Okay, let's do it now. Thank you, Annie, for saying you don't remember it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go Carl's Jr. ad women. I'm going to go to images and look at this. Look at that. Okay, look at this one. I have to move my Zoom window. Look at that. Okay, it's hamburgers that they're trying to sell. And by the way, the hamburgers are not that big, are they? They're not that big. She can barely hold it in her hand. You know what I mean? Yeah. We saw bodybuilders. Thank you, Samantha. Okay, this one, look at that. The hamburgers are her breasts. There's 2 hamburgers that she's holding up in front of her presumably naked breasts. All right, and these things are all over the place. All right, and they're not subtle. They're really not subtle. Look at this one. These 2 women are feeding each other, you guys. All right, this is supposed to be evoking, right, a lesbian relationship or a same-sex physical encounter between 2 women. All right, here's one, here's an old one. These things have been going on for a long time. She'll tell you size doesn't matter. She's lying. It's gonna get messy. All right, and what's most important about Paris Hilton here? Why is she in this ad? Because she's seen as, you know, a representation of ideal femininity, specifically sexy. All right. Okay, let's go back to our thing here. All right, so those are the values for females. What about for males? What cultural values do you see being reflected and promoted in marketing ads? That's redundant. All ads are marketing. Well, actually, some of them are public service announcements. Okay, so I take that back. But what about for males? What kinds of values for males do you see being reflected? How are males supposed to present themselves? How are they supposed to behave? How are they supposed to look in our culture? Men have to be providers for the family. Okay, can anybody give me some specific examples, perhaps, of ads they've seen that are using our cultural values around masculinity to promote their product? They have to be strong and can't be vulnerable. Okay, good. We talked about Mr. Clean. Any others you guys can think of? I had a student last week say Ford trucks or trucks, right? Do you know that ad campaign for trucks, for Ford?
Yes.
Okay.
Built Ford tough.
Yeah, but that's the slogan, right? that's the slogan, you guys. They're not subtle, right? And then when you look at the ads, right, there's a guy talking like this. Oh, you're a truck, tough.
Ford truck driver.
That's right. And he's big and he's dirty, right? And he's doing physical labor and loading crap into his truck, heavy stuff, right? That's using our cultural values around masculinity to sell a truck. A truck is just a vehicle, right? Women can drive trucks, right? They can haul the stuff that they bought on Craigslist in their trucks. Trust me. They can haul their gardening supplies in their trucks, right? Or stuff for their animals, right? And it doesn't have to be only a dude's vehicle, but that's the way it's marketed. Okay. All right, let's move on. I think you guys get this.